Hello, everyone. I am Raquel Beeknell, and today I will be presenting a professional development called Celebrating Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Through Children's Literature. We will learn what diversity and inclusion are and how to incorporate it into our classroom. To start, we will watch a brief introduction to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is also called DEI for short. Now that we have watched the introduction video, we are going to go over what we will learn in this professional development. So today we will learn what inclusion and diversity means and what it looks like in the school setting, what it means for literature to be a mirror, window, or sliding glass door, ways to incorporate diverse and inclusive books into lessons or units, examples of diverse and inclusive children's literature to incorporate into daily school routines, and how the Family Treasures Project can help you provide an inclusive classroom. We have three objectives for today's professional development. The first one is to define what inclusion and diversity is and what they look like in the school setting. The second one is to explain what it means for books to be a mirror, window, or sliding glass door. And the last one is to provide examples of diverse and inclusive literature and how to incorporate it into the classroom. I feel like these three objectives were the most important topics of today's PD. Before we really jump into this professional development, I feel that it's most important to describe diversity and inclusion. I do have two university quotes that I would like to share with you all. The University of San Diego says that diversity in the school setting refers to a broad range of ideas and initiatives to create learning environments that are safe, inclusive, and equitable for as many identities as possible. Recognizing, fostering, and developing sensitivity to the needs of people in various identity categories are primary aims of educational diversity. Drexel University School of Education says that inclusion in the classroom means that all children, no matter their racial, religious, or ethnic background, gender, learning style, or ability, have equal access to educational opportunities in a learning environment where all students are equally safe, valued, and respected. Next, I wanted to share my guiding question that drives this professional development. So, throughout this PD, you're going to be asking yourself, how can diverse and inclusive literature engage readers in the classroom? And I hope by the end of this professional development, you will definitely have some answers. This slide also helps us answer our guiding question already. We're going to talk about with this one why teachers should promote diversity and inclusivity through literature. There are so many reasons, but I did just include four of them. But like I said, you could go on forever why you should promote diversity and inclusiveness in your classroom. The four most important ones that I felt like I wanted to share was how students see representations of themselves in their characters. Diverse literature allows students to strengthen their empathy skills as they imagine being in someone else's skin. It also allows children to think for themselves, really strengthens their critical thinking skills. And then, one of the most important, educate and prevent prejudice in the future. Still referring to the driving question of this professional development, I want to introduce you to Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. Dr. Bishop coined the phrase windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors to explain how children see themselves in books, as well as how they learn about others' lives as they read. And even though I included it on the PowerPoint, I still want to read the quote from Rudine Sims Bishop in 1990. She said, "Children need books that are mirrors that allow them to see themselves and their own experiences, windows that they can look through to see other worlds, and sliding glass doors that allow them to walk through in imagination to other worlds." The three books that we will be looking at today when talking about how to incorporate diversity and inclusiveness into your classroom through units or lessons will be The Boy Who Tried to Shrink His Name, Our Diversity Makes Us Stronger, and Masterpiece. This story is about a boy named Zimdala Mashkamishkada, and he is a new student at a school where he doesn't feel comfortable sharing his long name, so he shortens it down to Zim. But unfortunately, his new nickname doesn't just sound right to him, but he's too embarrassed to tell the kids his real name. I feel like this was a great book to read for, the first day of school to kind of prepare students that some students might have different names than others, and that's okay. I know that some people might hear an odd name and they might kind of chuckle at it or mispronounce it on purpose because it sounds similar to something else. And I just really want students to understand that that's not how we treat other people. Eventually, Zimdala Mashkramishkata does tell his friends his real name, um, but he finds out that his friends already know how to pronounce his name and he ends up feeling a lot better about it. I think that this is a great story to let children know that you don't have to shrink yourself down to fit in. I found this resource for free on Teacher Paid Teacher for the boy who tried to shrink his name. The lesson that I would put with this story is for the students to describe a character from the story by creating a skateboard that they would like. The standard I tied to this was RL 4.3, describe in depth a character in a story, drawing on specific details in the text, such as a character's thoughts, words, or actions. Another lesson that I didn't mention in this PowerPoint for this story would be a great SEL lesson, always teaching students empathy and respecting others. Um, Teaching students how to take the time to learn how to pronounce someone's name correctly is so important. So again, this would be a great lesson just for students to learn how to pronounce people's names correctly. The second story I included in this PD is Our Diversity Makes Us Stronger. The main character, Nick, is embarrassed by his new glasses until he realizes that all of his friends have something unique about them. This is a great first day of school story to remind students that they shouldn't compare themselves to one another. The activity I chose to do for this story would be a journal writing piece. I would have students tell their story of what makes them different and how it makes them feel. So I feel like this could be also a social emotional learning lesson. But the standard I tied to it was C43, compose narratives using writing and digital resources to develop real or imagined experiences or multiple events or ideas using effective technique, descriptive details, and clear sequencing. The main goal of this lesson would be for students to understand that everyone is different, everyone looks different. Um, I may have glasses, but my friend has braces, or I might have straight hair, but my friend has curly hair. I might be white, but my friend is black. I want everyone to understand that there isn't really any need for bullying because we're all different in our own way, and that's okay. The third story I chose to include in this PD is Masterpiece. This is about an autistic student named Samuel whose favorite color is blue. So when his teacher asks him to draw his family and his world as he sees it, he does different shades of blue. And many students are confused by this, why he isn't painting grass green or birds red. Um, and so I think that this allows students to really see that people who have autism see the world differently than others. The activity I chose for students to complete after reading Masterpiece is to complete a short response. They will write what the main idea of the story was and then use two key details from the story to support their answer. The standard I tied to this was RI 4.2, determine the main idea of a text and explain how it is supported by key details. I chose this because of our iReady curriculum. A lot of our short responses are written in this way, and I want students to be comfortable answering questions like this independently. On this slide and the next slide, I have incorporated examples of other DEI books that I did not talk about today that you could incorporate into your daily school routine. So when I say this, I mean you can use it as a read aloud to get the day started. You can read it aloud right before you go to recess or after lunch, or even for a quick SEL lesson. I feel like even if there isn't a unit or a lesson tied to a book that incorporates diversity or inclusion or equity, you should still read it to your students. Even your fourth and fifth graders still love to listen to read alouds. So I would encourage you to pick one of these books to read to your kids. Again, this is another slide on some examples of DEI books that I didn't talk about today in my PD that you can incorporate into your daily school routines. On this one, I chose Yes I Can, Layla's Lunchbox, I Am a Masterpiece, and All Our Neighbors. Again, I encourage you, whether you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes of free time, to read a DEI book to your students. So this past year, I decided to do a Family Treasures project during a lesson about family traditions. And my students were able to share a bunch of artifacts from their culture and from their family to the whole class. And I really found that it was very beneficial bringing awareness to different cultures and different backgrounds with my students. This was not a free resource, but a fairly cheap resource. I have linked it in this slide for you, and then in my works reference slide. I have also included some screenshots of what this looks like. It comes with a letter to the parents. It comes with a rubric. It comes with things to talk about in your presentation. I really enjoyed listening to the kids talk about their families and their culture. I learned so many things about my kids that I didn't know before. The principals come to watch, other teachers come to watch. It was a great time, and really, it's a also kind of an SEL lesson. Children are building empathy and they're learning about others and they're respecting others' culture. And really, this was a great resource. So, if you have time to do this or if it ties to a unit that you have, I would strongly suggest that you purchase this. As this professional development comes to a close, you may be asking yourself how teachers, administrators, and other school staff can work together to promote diversity and inclusivity. The first way is to collaborate with other teachers during planning or dedicated time outside of school hours. When you plan to work together, make sure you stick to your dedicated time. Also, make sure you have meaningful conversations during this time. The second way is to prioritize school-wide behavior management. So, for example, my school does Class Dojo as a school-wide behavior management plan. This is something to think about for that. The third way is to strengthen relationships with families. It is so important to include families, family nights, inviting them to read to your class, including them in projects are just a few ways to achieve this. And then the last way to promote diversity and inclusiveness is the understanding that everyone shares a responsibility, not just teachers, not just administrators. Everyone shares that responsibility of promoting diversity and inclusivity. We are now at the reflection point of this professional development. So, as you think about your takeaways from today's PD, I want you to keep some key points in mind. The first key point is teachers should be actively seeking for diverse and inclusive literature to implement into their classrooms. The second one is incorporating diverse and inclusive literature engages students as they use these stories as mirrors, windows, or sliding glass doors. And then lastly, everyone in the school shares a responsibility in creating a safe school setting. So I want you to think and reflect on what you learned today, and then we will share it as a group. Thank you all for participating in my professional development on celebrating DEI through children's literature. I hope you were able to learn something new you can implement into your classrooms.